Alright, so now it's time to create the base. I'm appending a cube, and I'm just going to make it into a flat plane using the transpose lines, move, and scale. So we're going to bring that down here. And you can tell this is just a simple mesh, and I'm going to turn it into a Dynamesh. Now I can be very aggressive with it. The first thing I do is I block out a mask and use move to move those unmasked areas. And this becomes my overall base. I can really break up the surface this way. So with Dynamesh, I can be very aggressive and I can just come up with stuff on the fly. You'll notice I'll be using a wide range of brushes for this. The clay tubes, I'll use soft concrete, and I'll be using the transpose lines quite a bit with masking. See that Dynamesh offers quite a bit of freedom. I want him to look like he's on some kind of cliff, and I'd also like to indicate some water. I haven't decided whether or not the water is going to extend beyond the rocks, but it might when I bring it into Keyshot. So here I'm using backface mask, and you can see that it's deforming as I'm pulling it, which has this really nice organic quality to it. See how I can just freeze areas of the mesh and adjust it with my transpose lines. You can move quite a bit very easily. With backface mask, I can sink parts of the model into itself. I just love all of the happy accidents that one can get working with Dynamesh and by leaving backface mask on. So to get a bit of noise over the entire piece, I'm going into my deformation palette and I'm just playing around with the noise option. I'm also applying alphas with the drag rectangle using the standard brush just to break up the surface. I can import textures. You can go online and look up textures of rock. In this case I used rust. I'm using hard polish here just to chisel down a few of my planes and just adding a lot of texture and a lot of noise. Now these rocks are going to be almost like volcanic rocks that have been eroded and chipped away over the years. Here I'm just deleting some of the unnecessary geometry. I want to create little puddles and little pools in the rock just to make it more interesting when I do my turntable in Keyshot. So I masked off a little puddle and just caved that in. Starting to fill in areas. I love being able to just pull the model into itself and use Dynamesh to allow the model to correct itself. Pulling up a section of rock here. Everything is masked except for the rock. So you can do so much just with these transpose lines. It's really invaluable. When I do hard surface props like guns and weapons, I will actually use a very similar technique of masking, inverting the mask, and just moving those forms around with the transpose lines. Here I've switched to a darker color just to help me see the rocks as a different value. I want to keep the plane simple enough so that I don't have to do a very extreme pose on the character. Here I'm adding new geometry. I'm using the insert brush to just add these planes. I'm going to split the geometry so that it's now two different subtools. And when I bring this into Keyshot, I'm going to take the simple planes and I'm going to define them out of a glass material. And next to the rigid rock, it's actually going to look just like water. It's a really cool trick. I'm doing the same thing here. Here I've extracted the geometry and I've just used the clip brush to make it nice and flat like water. Building some of these rocks back up using soft concrete. after spending a lot of time working with the model and being very precise with the creature, it's really nice to just play around with the base and have some freedom. And you can see I'm getting some great textures just by working with that back face mask. You can see I'm just adding a few alpha textures here and there, breaking it up. I always like to check the Sculpting BPR. That looks pretty good. Quick little turntable. We'll be going into creating turntables in ZBrush very soon. I just want to get the creature posed first. That looks good.